All right, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Very excited to be here. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I understand time is a really precious things these days. So once again, I really appreciate you all being here, and hopefully you enjoy and learn about Alteryx and love Alteryx as much as I do. Right. So my name is Fernando Vizcaino, and in this webinar, we'll talk about Excel and Alteryx and its relationship, right? So we'll talk a little about some fun facts, some Excel history that you didn't know about. We'll talk about good and great things about Excel, other not so great things, right, about Excel, and I'll present to you all Alteryx, right? The reason for this webinar. And after that, I'm 100% sure that you want to give it Alteryx a try, hopefully, right? But let's get started, right? But first, right, some housekeeping items, right? You have below the screen, you have the option there to ask questions. You can say hi if you want. You can say where you are from, right? This session will be is being recorded and will be shared through Bright Talks, right? So right after the end of the webinar, you see that the webinar will be available there. You can share with colleagues. You can, of course, connect with us on LinkedIn, right? So feel free to do any of this. And as I mentioned, ask your questions away. So that's very important. I like interaction, right? A little bit about me, right? So I'm a senior data consultant at Curious Canada. I've been working with Curious for the past 5 months, so five half months, I might say. But with Alteryx, it's been a long journey. I'm working with Alteryx for the past 8 years. So before that, I was one of the Excel power users. I think that's why I'm here. That's why I'm presenting this to you. It's my own experience transform into a webinar, right? I'm also an Alteryx ace. Okay, and for those of you uh, learning Alteryx or seeing Alteryx for the first time, I think uh, what the hell is an ace, right? So in a nutshell, it's the highest certification one can get. Um, when it comes to Alteryx, right? And I'm also a top 10 Alteryx community contributor. So that's what I love doing, helping users, doing webinars like this one. And so I'm all day long on the community, helping others to learn more about Alteryx and love the tool as I'm in love with right now. And on the personal side, I'm a chess enthusiast, right? So online chess, chess.com, we all know about the chess boom that happened after the, the the Queen's Gambit, right? And many other things that happened right after. I'm one of those that start playing during COVID. I'm a 2000 ELO rep chess 1700 ELO blitz chess on chess.com, of course, right? So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, challenge me. I'll be more than happy to play in playing with any of you, right? About Kairos, so Kairos is an end-to-end data company. So we are in more than 26 countries, more than 3,000 employers, and our reason here is to handle data structures and strategies, from reporting to advanced analytics, making the data available, making the data matter. And with these, we can help you, for example, with your data strategy, data engineering, advanced analytics, and anything related to data visualization. I'll not talk about everything here, but I'll leave this for a moment so you can see everything that we can help you with. And in case you need anything at all, feel free to reach out to us. Okay. And when it comes to solutions or platforms, we are very flexible and agnostic. So here you can see a list of our good and great relationships that we have with tools. And even if you are interested in knowing, for example, the differences between Alteryx and data IQ and click and Power BI, doesn't really matter. Feel free to reach out to us, and we can most definitely will be able to help you with that. Okay, but let's get right into it, right? Let's just change here the background so you can see the full screen. Okay, so for starters, let's talk about Excel, right? So I got some facts for you right here. So the first one, that Excel was first released in 1905, right? So uh, and by then it was released for Macintosh, not Windows, right? So which is weird for us to think about that right now, right? So have a difference or a battle between Microsoft and Apple, but yes, it was released for Mac in '85, and soon after released for Windows in '87. And one great thing that I learned, I think was yesterday or before yesterday, is that amongst the names, right, of Excel, so of course we are used to Excel. There's no other name that we can think it would be better. But between the names, one of them was Master Plan, right? Which is okay, but Excel is way better. But another one was Mr. Spreadsheet. So could you imagine Excel being called Mr. Spreadsheet and you being called, I'm a Mr. Spreadsheet expert, right? So that would be weird in my opinion, but that's basically because we are used to Excel. So it's a 4-year-old tool, 4-year-old software with many updates, many great things that we are able to do, right? Another fun fact that you have 500 different types of keyboard shortcuts in Excel, right? I think similar to esports, you have some games that people are able to use only keyboards and no mouse, right? Excel is one of these tools that you don't really need to use your mouse. Not easy though, but it's possible. When it comes to users worldwide, we have more than 1 billion users. This is an estimation. It's not possible to get the real numbers from Microsoft, right? But when thinking about Excel experts, we have roughly, it's also an estimation, but 8% of this 1 billion, meaning 80 million Excel experts around the world, right? And here we are only talking about Excel, but we need to start thinking about spreadsheets in general. So we have Google, the Google Productivity Suite. They mentioned that they have 2 billion users using the suite uh, on a monthly basis. But of course, there you got Gmail and many other tools. But roughly, we can start thinking about 1.5 billion users using spreadsheets, right? Another fun fact that yes, we do have a world championship about Excel, right? So last year was almost for 100 users, for 100 challengers, right? And it has something very similar to the World Cup. You have a qualification round where, in this case, the fastest ones with the correct solution would advance to the playoff rounds. So that the last 128 would play one against the other, and the finals is a live event in Las Vegas, televised by ESPN. So it's not a YouTube thing, it's not a small thing, right? So you would be able to see this on your television, on your ESPN, right after seeing Cristiano Ronaldo playing something, right? And the price there is 15,000 USD for, I think, the first 16, right? Did you know that? Yeah, pretty amazing, right? But when it comes to the usage, right, the use cases, I try to come with a set of words here to include everything, right? So business analysis. So you have lots of things that you are able to do on Excel, such as data entry, all kinds of calculations, data prep, data analysis, reporting, accounting, budgeting, business data, calendar, schedules, lots of things, forecasting, and in summary, anything that is repetitive when you are working with data. Excel can help you with that, which is incredible, right? And for the expert users, you have all these repetitive tasks that you are doing on a period basis. You can automate everything with VBA, right? So it's coding, more advanced, but yes, you can automate, and you don't need to you don't need to put your hands anymore on your spreadsheet. Lastly here, but I'm sure not least, games, right? So uh, some of the games that I saw is, for example, 2048. That's a great game. Cell Sweeper, Tetris, Scrabble, and lots of other games. So Alteryx not only a spreadsheet, but also a way for you to procrastinate even more instead of working, right? And we also have the 2048 hidden, like something like it looks like a cash flow spreadsheet, but you are playing 2048 like hidden somewhere in the spreadsheet, which is it was pretty fun to watch. Okay, so yeah, you have lots of great things that Excel can do and help you with, but also, and unfortunately, we have the Excel blunders, right? So have like famous cases that happen throughout the world, and I wanted to share some with you. And the first one here is something that happened with JP Morgan. So they had a 6 billion USD trading loss. So and then the history. So that it's a long history. Lots of Excel errors behind this, but it was an Excel spreadsheet used to create value at risk models, right? So you had one trader there, the London office, that was analyzing this companies and this assets. So they would see if it's worth trading, right? And what happened there is that he copied and pasted the wrong data into the spreadsheet, which made the model underestimate the risk of that asset, right? Leading to 6 billion USD loss, which is, yeah, a lot of money. The second one here, London Olympics. So there was an event, a swimming event that was oversold by 10,000 tickets, right? So it was synchronized swimming. It was an event not initially oversubscribed, right? So what happened there is that the organizers needed to reach out to more than 3,000 customers to offer them replacement tickets, right, for other events, right? Which is a good thing, right? So great news for these customers that were able to watch uh, another event, an oversubscribed event, but a bad news for all the other ones that were trying to get more difficult tickets, right? Next one, confidential information release. So the name already states the meaning of this issue, right? But they the idea there is that they had a large list of analysts, like outside analysts, expecting to receive financial guidance report, like that's all. But they accidentally sent an Excel template with way more information that the analysts were expecting, right? COVID, something that's unfortunately more current here. But so during the pandemic, so we all know this. That's when we start, most of us start learning about data or seeing many data science models being shared on LinkedIn, on YouTube, many YouTubers focusing their content on COVID. And so one thing that we know is that data was clearly a massive concern, right? So the number of positive cases, people in isolation, countries in lockdown, so and also unfortunately the number of deaths. So the data was overwhelming, right? And what happened here in this case in England is that they didn't report 16,000 cases, which led to, so the idea for this use case was for them to talk to potentially infectious people that may have contacted one of these persons, right? And they forgot what happened there is that the estimations that 50,000 potentially infectious people was not contacted, which is not good, right? Lastly, here, wrong phone bug. So this related to MI6, also in England, the Security Service. So they accidentally tapped 134 people who were completely unrelated to the investigation, right? So I guess Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise must have been really, really mad about this one, right? And these are issues these are common issues, right? So I try to separate one incidence, one that led to money loss, another one that was different. But in summary, this is all common Excel errors, right? So we have, for example, JP Morgan was a copy and paste. The first of many errors was copying the wrong information from one spreadsheet to another, right? The London Olympics, one a basic and simple Excel typo. Instead of 10,000, the employee wrote or typed 20,000, right? AstraZeneca, hidden tabs. So they have an Excel template and they forgot to delete hidden tabs. For the COVID, it was related to the limitation of the amount of rows, right? So they created an automatic process to pull data from CSV into Excel templates. So it's pretty easy, right? But the developer, instead of selecting the most uh, current or the newest Excel formats, they picked Excel LS, right? And that's something that I didn't knew until I read about this case, but there is a limit of 65,000 rows on this format of Excel. Whereas in the newer formats, you have a limit of 1,000,000 rows, right? Lastly, a formatting error here. So in this spreadsheet, they have a function that were changing the last three digits or adding the last three digits as zeros, three zeros. So the numbers, the three last digits were changed to zero. And what happened? They bugged the wrong people, right? And of course, when you start thinking about these errors, you as an Excel power user or an Excel user, right? You might think that you never made any of these errors. So you are reviewing your Excel files, especially when sharing this with your manager or publicly sharing this with the internet. I don't know, right? Yes, and I truly understand that, but the reasons behind this may vary, right? And one of the reasons is not related to the users working there, the capacity of the users of the or the knowledge of the users, but something very simple as disengagement, right? So this is from the Gallup State of the Global Workplace. This is the 2023 report, so brand new report. And the reasons here for disengagement are many. right? But one of the reasons there, one of the comments that I saw in the report, that the employees are complaining about wanting to learn more things, right? Are mentioning that the work they do is quite repetitive. Is that something similar to you? You would say? Mm. Something else here. So they should grant more autonomy in the work to stimulate creativity, right? I would say when you are doing repetitive tasks, or when you are doing something that you do on a period basis, it's not a creative work, right? You don't need to think. Of course, you need to be cautious about your work, but you're not creating anything. You are not bringing your insights, bringing your ideas into your work, right? And what happened with these disengagements, that people start seeking other jobs, right? And once again, the reasons here are there are lots of reasons, right? But one of the reasons here, one thing that I found in a Salesforce survey is that employees are more satisfied due to automation. 89% of the employees, right? So lots of employees, I would say. And one thing for you to think about when it comes to automation, or even related to disengagement. So let me tell a simple story, right? So let's say you are a customer, you are asking or expecting a service, or you bought a product and you had an issue, right? And the customer service or the customer experience was not that great. Would you buy that product or service one more time, right? Of course, you could give one more try if the product is that important, but if the same problem happened one more time, would you stick with that company or with that product? I think a similar dynamic exists between employers and employees, right? So the employers must deliver a great experience, a great culture for its employees, or you are risk losing them, right? So let's say you have a very good employee that builds an Excel template with VBA coding. So it's all automated, it's working, uh, no problems at all, right? But let's say this employee leave your company. How long time will you take to replace this employee? How long time will it take to another employee to learn VBA, or to learn the way that spreadsheet was built? And when we think about automation, as I mentioned before, most of the employees think that they are more satisfied because they have time to learn new skills. So they are using company's time to learn more and more things, right? To upskill themselves, which is amazing. And they are using these new skills to automate new tasks, right? So it's not that they are using the company's time to study and to leave the company, but they are using the time to automate more and more things inside the company. They are bringing their insights, they are bringing their ideas into something more concrete, right? Which improves satisfaction, improves engagement, right? And something that is happening right now, and this was mentioned by Gartner, right? So Gartner is an IT, uh, a well-known IT and research company, and they are talking about this hyper automation wave and era, right? So this was a term created by Gartner, and in a nutshell, only to simplify, is to automate processes and augment humans. So you have the generative AI out there doing lots of things and doing also lots of mistakes, right? But that's the hyper automation era. So companies are trying more and more to automate all of its internal processes. And one good information about this that Gardner also predicts that 2023, right, the number of citizen developers, right? So keep this name, citizen developers will be at least 4 times the number of professional developers, right? And and who are these citizen developers, right? So the idea of citizen developers that they don't have a coding background, they don't have a science background, right? But they do have, for example, a no-code, low-code platform that help them into automating processes, right? So this is what it's called citizen developers. You don't need to ask IT anymore to automate something for you, to export something from the data warehouse for you. So that's something that you can do if supported by the right tools, right? And that's where I introduce you to Alteryx, right? So it doesn't really matter where the data is coming from. It doesn't really matter where the data is going to. So it could be coming from data warehouses, files, cloud platforms, websites, and could be going to your dashboard or even an Excel file. So you're automating an Excel file, so you don't need to do the uh, everything all over on a weekly basis, right? And when it comes to Alteryx, it doesn't really matter if you are from IT with coding and infrastructure background, or if you are an analyst or business user that don't have a coding background, right? Alteryx is was created for all of you. So if you want to do ELT processes, data prep, reporting, spatial, data science, AutoML, auto insight generation. So lots of things here that are included in Alteryx. You can do it by yourself. So you have now the tool to support you throughout your data and analytics journey, right? But better than saying this to you, right? Let me show this to you, right, with a demo. And as I mentioned before, feel free to ask your questions away, anything related to Alteryx or anything I mentioned before about Excel, right? Challenge me out. Okay, so first step here, let's understand what I'm showing you, right? So here we have Alteryx Designer. So of the uh, one of the softwares, one of the elements of the Alteryx platform. Right here, it's all drag and drop. We have this blank canvas. We have a set of tools here, right? In and out, preparation, join, parse, and transform, right? So we have 5 different categories here with lots of blocking tools, right? So, and I would say with these first 5 categories, most definitely 95% of everything you do on Excel, you can do with this set of tools, right? And how about the other 5%? Okay, so the other 5%, we do have way more blocking tools than I mentioned before. One more time here. Oh, there you go. So as you can see here, many more categories. Some are advanced, some are very specific, but you do have more than 300 native tools for you to work with. But let me show you something. So let's start here with files, right? So I do have here assets and liabilities file. So two simple files. It could be coming from a data warehouse, as I mentioned, but let's start baby steps, right? So first two files, since it is an Excel, I need to select the correct tab, right? But there you go. So now I have 2 files loaded here on Alteryx. Let's start by analyzing the data. So let's say you are new in your company and someone share both data sets with you and you have no idea what these data sets are all about. So first we can see here the assets, right? So we have 6 columns, we have 300 rows, and this is the data that is coming from this CSV file. One thing that I can see here, no values, it could be an issue, could not be an issue. It really depends on the use case, right? And the same goes here for the liabilities data sets. So 11 columns, same amount of rows, and I have here way more no values than the other file, right? So fortunately here, I can see that I have an ID in both files, right? And my use case here, very simple. I need to merge both data sets into one to start my reconciliation process, okay? So let me drag this here, drag this here. So we first start by joining. In Excel would be something like a VLOOKUP, right? In Alteryx, we have a VLOOKUP. I'll do something called join. It's more broad than a VLOOKUP, but sometimes the output is the same. And in this case, will be the same, right? So it's only a matter of me configuring this join tool and selecting the right IDs, similar to Excel, right? So I need to select the key fields where my files will be merged, right? And there you go. I run this one more time, and as you can see here, one quick check, I'm seeing here the same amount of rows. That means that I'm not duplicating, I'm not deleting anything from my data set. It's all here, right? And let's say, oh, Fernando, I have no idea what this join is all about, or any other tool that you are showing there. So for example, here, when you click on a tool, you see like a brief description of what that tool is created for. And if that's not enough, you can go into tutorials, manuals, but also examples, right? So by clicking on the example, you are opening an Alteryx workflow, and you can see the example, or even copy and paste the example here in the workflow you are developing, right? Okay, so we have the join here. It's all good. Another thing, and one small detail here, but it's very important, that when we work with CSV files, right, it's all text-based. And how do I know that? I can see the metadata here, and I'm seeing that everything is set as a string, which means a text, right? So for me to fix this, let me go back to the data. I can use one tool called autofill. So this autofill tool, as the name already mentions a little, it's an automatic process to set the data types, right? So it's automatic. I don't need to do anything at all here. It's all selected already. And there you go. So if I look before, I can see that it was all text. After, oops, here, all integers, right? So Alteryx is checking all the cells, all the columns, and transforming to the correct data type automatically, right? Lastly here, we do have many no values, and in this use case, my manager asked me to change this to zeros, right? So you don't have no values or blank cells in my Excel. So fortunately, we have something called data cleansing, right? It's only a matter of dragging the tool here, right? If you don't know what the tool is made for, you can see examples. But the idea here is that the only thing I want to do is replace my no values with zeros, right? And that's it. Running the workflow, right? So one thing that we can see here, everything became or was replaced with zeros, right? Let's say you want to check if it's all correct. Let's say you create an if formula and you want to check before and after. So that's something that you can do here in all of your tools. No values. So before and after, for checking purposes, only to see if you did everything correctly, right? Okay, so now you understood the concept. Now it's a drag and drop tool. You have way more tools than you need right now. So as I mentioned, the first five categories here, eh, anything related to data preparation, 95% of your Excel work you can solve with this set of categories. But if you want something way more advanced, for example, reporting, you can build your PDF report and send automatically to everyone through email, right? So that's one. Or you have a special use case where you have addresses and you want to start analyzing the distance between your customers, stores, and so on and so forth. And we can go even further: predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, forecasting. So those are things that you have already included here. So as soon as you get rid of your repetitive tasks, then you can start upskilling yourself into more advanced things. And you don't need to have coding background. You don't need to be a data scientist. You don't have to be a developer. You can be a citizen developer, right? You can be a citizen data scientist. And the idea behind this is that you don't have all the knowledge, all the coding knowledge, but with the right tool, you can perform the same tasks. Moving forward here, so let's look in a different example here. So remember that VBA use case I mentioned. So let's say instead of previous user, the previous employee left the company, and instead of a VBA and macro Excel spreadsheet with all the functions, instead of that, the user share something like this with you, right? So you know that it's an asset and liability reconciliation process. You have the description, and it's all documented, right? Of course, you don't know the specifics. You don't really understand the images here, but you have all. It's all documented, and it's easy for you to understand what's happening because you have a workflow, a process flow, right? So you know everything starts with the inputs, right? It's all color coded. So you know that green are inputs, blue are formulas, data preparation in general, purple, anything related to join, right? So you can see that I'm joining data sets here, doing data preparation, joining once again, I'm transforming my data set, right? So transforming red, and then I'm joining back again. And the outputs here are both to Tableau and Excel. Right? So it's easy for you to understand the concept of the workflow by only looking and understanding a few set of tools. And the images here, after a week or so or 3 days working with Alteryx, it's more than enough for you to memorize everything here. So we are better with images than with words and letters, right? And that's the whole concept behind Alteryx. It's easier for us to memorize these images, right? But in this use case here, we are only working with like 300 rows. That's like so little, right? So one thing that I wanted to show you in Alteryx is Alteryx handling way more data than that, right? So here is a simple use case. I got information from the Google Play Store, right? So here you can see the list of all the apps inside of Google Store. You can see the categories, right? And we have something here with the installs, right? So it's a category here. You can see right here, right? And we also have the rough number of installations, right? So what I did here, I did something simple, right? So the first thing that I did here, I wanted to check all the applications, all the apps, right, with more than 10,000 downloads, 10,000 installations. right? But so many more than I would be able to check and analyze, right? So then I started thinking about something different, right? So let me do a summarize, right? So I'm summarizing all the categories, the number of applications, but once again, too many categories for me to look, too many applications for me to also understand. So lastly, I wanted to understand the best applications in all the categories. And while I'm showing this, think about how you would do this on Excel. How long time would it take for Excel to process a data set as large as this one? Would it be possible? Okay. So one thing that I did here, I want to finalize this demo, that I selected the 5 best applications in all categories, right? So I have all the best 5 games, the best 5 photography apps, and so on and so forth, right? But here I'm showing you a workflow that was already executed, right? So, and how long time does it take for Alteryx to process this? Um, I didn't mention before, but Alteryx Designer is a tool installed in your notebook, in your own machine. So it's very similar to Excel in a way, right? So have that for you to use when needed. So let's run this, right, using my notebook. So I have this webinar open. I have lots of things opening here. And even with everything working in my notebook, it still took only 7 seconds to run the data. Let's run this one more time. Yeah, little more time now, 10 seconds, right? So there you go. So it's even things that are not possible for you to do in Excel, you are able to do here. Of course, in Excel, you can separate your data sets, but the idea here is now you have a no-code, low-code platform to help you with any kind of automation, right? Going back to my presentation then, when it comes to Alteryx, so Alteryx is for everyone. So I showed you a few examples related to finance, but it doesn't really matter the persona. So if you are a business user, if you work on IT, analyst, so it doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter the area you are working inside your company. You could be from HR, you could be from supply chain. We have use cases, and we have the community showing all of these to everyone, right? Doesn't even matter the area you are working in, but also the industry you are in right now. So Alteryx, we have more than 8,000 customers in every industry, and we also have big names, right? So for example, we have Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, Salesforce. We have Visa right here, right? So many Siemens. So a long list of companies worldwide that is using Alteryx for many different reasons. So it could be for Excel data preparation. That was the reason for this webinar, but it could be something way more advanced, a risk model using R or Python, for example. Right. So these are things that, as I mentioned before, citizen developers are able to do and are using Alteryx for it. Right. And I think that's all I have for you today. And hopefully I was able to at least give you a general idea of what Alteryx is made for. Right. But of course, if you have any questions or if you need more details, feel free to set up a free call with us and with myself. Here's my mail. If you have any questions, feel free to write right now, and I'll answer. some of the questions. Okay. Some are coming here. And hello again. Okay, so the first question that I'm getting here is if Alteryx has is open source or has a trial license. So yes, Alteryx, you are able to use Alteryx for free for 30 days, right? So you do have a free trial. You can access alteryx.com or can reach out to us and we can share you a license and help you with the installation, helping with trainings, helping you finding a use case if you need something like that. So our plan and the way I usually do, I personally do, we do everything in your own computer, right? So you bring us with a use case from your company and we build the workflow together, right? So we are building a use case and you are learning also so you can build by yourself your next workflows, right? So that's the whole idea. And good question. Another thing, so the user is talking about the data set limits. So you showed workflow running with 2 million rows, but I have much more than that in my data warehouse. Something around like 100 million rows. And the user is asking if it's possible to run in Alteryx, right? So, and the answer is yes, right? Even though Alteryx is a tool installed in your notebook, yeah, you'll be able to run that quite easily, to be honest. And one thing that Alteryx does well, right? Different than other tools, you won't see Alteryx freezing, for example, and closing due to memory limits. So what Alteryx does, every time you click on the run button, right? Every time you execute a workflow, Alteryx will separate half or 20 a quarter of your memory to run that workflow. So let's say you have like a tremendous workflow that is taking 20 minutes to run, or you have a data science model that is taking that amount of time to run, right? So you leave it Alteryx running for 20 minutes and you can do your day-to-day work. So Alteryx will not impact your day-to-day work, which is like impressive. You can't say that about a large Excel file or many other tools, right? But that's a good question. And another thing that we can do, if you have a data warehouse with 100 million rows, sometimes you don't need to bring that data to your local machine. So we have something called in database where you can create the process in Alteryx. So it's a visual process, so you don't need to know SQL to create the process, but it's a visual process, and Alteryx is translating that into a SQL query and pushing that into your database, right? So meaning that you won't have problems like downloading data through the company VPN, something like that, you know. So that's something that you can use Alteryx for, and it's a very good use case. Sharing my workflows and data sets, yes. So as I mentioned at the start of this webinar, the webinar will be on Bright Talks, right? But feel free, if you need the data sets, the use cases that I showed you, or even if you want to play with the Google Play Store data sets, reach out to me in my mail there on the screen, and I'll share you the content, the workflows and data sets so you can practice by yourself. Last question here, or second to last. Can you access Teradata, and Oracle? So, and the answer is yes. So one thing that Alteryx really thrives on is data integration. So we have, I don't know the correct number, but as long as you have a driver, a public driver, a free driver, you will be able to connect to that data set, that data warehouse for free. And Teradata, Oracle, SQL Server, SAP HANA, Redshift, and you name it. And many different types of file formats as well. CSV, zip file, text file, shape file, uh, click files, Hyper, TDE from Tableau. Those are files that Alteryx support. So the whole idea, I think, for Alteryx, not you are replacing you are replacing other tools or even Excel with Alteryx. You are complementing them, right? So Alteryx can connect quite easily to your Excel templates, right? So let's say you have like a very complex dashboard on Excel and you don't want to move that into Power BI, or you don't want to recreate that with Alteryx. So Alteryx can help you creating the data set, the backend data set that is populating your Excel template, right? So it's only working as an integrator, right? I think another question here is more related to Power BI. So I think the main difference about Alteryx and Power BI and the licensing formats. So the difference about Alteryx and Power BI is that Alteryx is more of it's not an ETL tool, but you can work as an ETL. So for data preparation, for example, or for advanced analytics, so I would say things that you don't need a dashboard for, right, or interaction. Whereas Power BI is more for you to show the data. Alteryx more for you to analyze the data and automate your processes, meaning data preparation, prescript analysis, geospatial, and we do have many use cases where Alteryx is being used to prep the data, and it's all being sent to Power BI, Tableau, Click. I know you do have ways of you prepping your data in Power BI, but the same as Excel, you do have limitations. You have like performance issues. So for these companies that are using Power BI as their enterprise solution, they are using Alteryx amongst other tools to do the preparation process. Related to the licensing formats, it's a subscription that you need to pay on an yearly basis, right? And that's it. As simple as that. I think it's very similar to all the other tools on the marketing these days. So it's subscription on an yearly basis, and that's it. I think that's all I have for today. I don't think we have enough time to answer more questions, but once again, thank you for joining. It was a great experience. I love doing this kind of webinars. Don't hesitate to contact us or even to talk with me on LinkedIn. Right? Feel free to reach out to ask your questions away. Once again, it's all public, and you can share the webinar with your peers, or you can ask us to present a specific demo or a use case in your company. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for joining, and see you next time.